People often ask me one simple question: is Mauritius expensive? But after growing up here, I've realized that's actually the wrong question. A better question is, how do you spend your money wisely in Mauritius? Because I've seen people spend 5,000 or 6,000 euros on a holiday here and leave disappointed. I've also met people who spent less than half that amount and had the time of their lives. The difference wasn't the island, and it wasn't the money. It was simply how they chose to spend it. Mauritius can be as luxurious or as affordable as you want it to be, and that's something many first-time visitors don't realize. So today, as someone who was born and raised in Mauritius, I want to show you what a holiday here really costs, where people accidentally waste money, and where you can save without missing the very best this island has to offer. Because in my opinion, spending less isn't the goal, spending smarter is. The first thing I always tell people is this: before you calculate your budget, decide what kind of holiday you actually want. Are you coming here to switch off completely? Breakfast overlooking the ocean, lazy afternoons by the pool, cocktails at sunset, and dinners inside a beautiful resort? If that's the holiday you've been dreaming about, then Mauritius has some incredible hotels that are absolutely worth it. But maybe you're a different kind of traveler. Maybe you can't stay in one place for very long. Maybe you wake up early because you're already thinking about the next beach, the next viewpoint, or the next village you want to discover. Maybe you want to drive through the mountains, stop whenever you see an amazing landscape, buy fresh fruit from a roadside stall, or spend an hour on a beach you've never even heard of before. Those are two completely different holidays, and they don't cost the same, and neither one is better than the other. That's why I always say the best accommodation isn't necessarily the most expensive one. It's the one that matches the holiday you actually want. Let's start with accommodation because that's where most of your budget will go. Mauritius has some incredible luxury resorts, and if that's your dream, go for it. The service is fantastic, the beaches are beautiful, and everything is designed to make your stay effortless. But don't make the mistake of thinking that's your only option. Villas, apartments, boutique hotels, and guest houses can offer amazing value, especially if you're planning to spend your days exploring the island. In fact, I've met visitors who booked a 5-star resort and barely used it because they were out discovering Mauritius from morning until sunset. They paid for beautiful swimming pools, several restaurants, entertainment, and facilities that they hardly had time to enjoy. At the same time, I've met families staying in a lovely villa with a private pool, spending much less overall while having more space, more privacy, and complete freedom. Neither choice is wrong. The important thing is making sure your accommodation matches the holiday you're actually looking for. Now here's one of the first hidden costs that catches people by surprise. Just a few days ago, I was talking to someone who had just come back from Mauritius. He'd booked half board at a beautiful hotel and assumed that meant everything during dinner was included. It wasn't. The meals were included, but every single drink had to be paid separately. Water, soft drinks, beer, wine, cocktails. Individually, they didn't seem expensive, but after 10 or 12 days, the final bill was much higher than he expected. It didn't ruin the holiday, but it definitely wasn't part of the budget he'd planned before leaving home. That's why I always recommend checking exactly what's included before booking. Half board doesn't always mean the same thing everywhere. Some hotels include water, others don't. Some include selected drinks. Others charge for absolutely everything. Those little details may seem insignificant before your trip, but over 2 weeks, they can easily add up to a few hundred euros. Food is another area where you have complete control over your budget. And honestly, if I can give you one piece of advice as someone who grew up here, don't eat every single meal inside your hotel. Some of the best food I've ever had in Mauritius wasn't inside a luxury resort. It came from tiny, family-owned restaurants, roadside food stalls, and simple places that many visitors drive straight past without even noticing. Fresh grilled fish, dole puree made right in front of you, mine frit, homemade curries. Simple food full of flavor and usually much cheaper than what you'll find inside a resort. Growing up in Mauritius, stopping somewhere for something to eat before heading to the beach was completely normal. We'd often buy fresh fruit, pick up something simple for lunch, and spend the rest of the day by the ocean. Looking back, those weren't expensive moments at all, but they're still some of my favorite memories. and I think that's something many visitors discover only after they leave. If you're staying in an apartment or a villa, supermarkets are another great way to keep your costs under control. Having breakfast on your terrace with fresh tropical fruit, good coffee, and no timetable before heading out to explore the island is not only cheaper, it's also one of my favorite ways to start a day in Mauritius. Then comes transportation, and this is where your choices can make a huge difference. Public buses are incredibly affordable, and they cover a large part of the island, but they're not always the fastest option if you're trying to see a lot in a short holiday. Taxis are comfortable, but using them every single day can quickly become expensive. Personally, if you're staying for more than a week and you really want to discover Mauritius beyond the resort, I would seriously consider renting a car. Yes, it adds to your budget, but it gives you something that's far more valuable than money: freedom. Freedom to stop whenever you see an incredible viewpoint. Freedom to spend an extra hour on a beach because nobody is waiting for you. Freedom to turn down a small road simply because it looks interesting. Some of my favorite places on the island were never planned. They were places I found simply because I decided to keep driving a little further. Just remember to include the real cost when comparing rental prices: fuel, insurance, and if needed, an additional driver. Those are expenses many people forget when looking at the cheapest offer online. Activities are another part of the budget that can vary enormously. Mauritius offers everything from free public beaches to luxury catamaran cruises, dolphin excursions, underwater walks, helicopter flights, zip lines, and hiking experiences. You don't need to do everything. In fact, one of the biggest mistakes I see is people trying to fill every single day with expensive excursions because they're afraid of missing out. Ironically, some of the best memories don't cost anything at all. Watching the sun disappear behind Le Morne, walking along Flic and Flash Beach just before sunset, driving through Chamarel with the windows down, sitting under the shade of a filau tree with a fresh coconut in your hand and absolutely nowhere else to be. You know what's funny? Some of the memories I treasure most from Mauritius didn't cost a single euro. They were simple moments that happened naturally, without a ticket, without a reservation, and without being advertised anywhere. That's one of the reasons I always tell people not to plan every minute of their holiday. Leave some space for the unexpected. Mauritius has a wonderful way of surprising you when you're not looking for it. Then there are the small expenses that quietly eat away at your budget. A bottle of water here, an ice cream there, sunscreen because you forgot yours at home, a TM withdrawal fees, parking, souvenirs for family and friends, drinks while waiting at the airport before flying home. None of these things seems expensive on their own, but together, over 10 or 14 days, they can easily add up to a few hundred euros. I always tell people that Mauritius doesn't empty your wallet all at once. It does it 10 euros at a time. That's why I recommend leaving yourself a little margin in your budget instead of calculating every single expense before you arrive. Holidays are meant to be enjoyed, not spent worrying about every receipt. So, how much money do you really need for a Mauritius vacation? The honest answer is, it depends entirely on the holiday you want. You could have an incredible week here on a sensible budget, or you could spend several thousand euros enjoying every luxury the island has to offer. Neither approach is wrong. The real mistake is believing that spending more automatically means having a better holiday. It doesn't. Some of the most unforgettable experiences in Mauritius are completely free. The real secret isn't finding the cheapest holiday, it's avoiding unnecessary expenses so you can spend your money on the experiences that actually matter to you. And if there's one final piece of advice I'd like to leave you with, it's this. Don't measure your holiday by how much you spend. Don't measure it by the number of stars your hotel had or by how expensive the excursions were. Measure it by the memories you bring home, the beach you discovered by accident, the little family restaurant where you had the best fish of your life, the fresh pineapple you bought from a roadside stall, the stranger who smiled at you and helped you find your way, the road that made you stop the car simply because the view was too beautiful to ignore. Years from now, those are the things you'll remember. Mauritius doesn't reward the biggest budget. It rewards curiosity. Spend wisely. Explore slowly. Stay curious. And I promise you'll discover that some of the very best experiences this island has to offer don't come with the highest price tag. They simply come with an open mind. Because the best souvenirs you'll ever take home from Mauritius won't fit inside your suitcase. They'll stay with you long after the holiday is over.